Good to see you. Ahead of Christmas and your birthday, just got to ask you about the state of your relationship with the NDP. Mr. Singh just now is speaking about fighting for rights, trying to get what he wants. Do you need to seek counseling with Mr. Singh over your supply deal?
Well, the reality is we're ambitious parties that are progressive in our values and trying to get things done for Canadians. Canadians are facing a tough time. We've been facing a tough year. We work together on delivering dental benefits and rental supports that are going out today. We continue to work on meaningful things together, but we're worried. We're all worried about the state of healthcare in this country, for example, and that's why I'm going to continue to push on provinces to deliver real results for Canadians. We'll be there with investments, but we need to make sure that they're helping Canadians get family doctors, end up off wait lists and into treatments. These are the things that we're going to continue to work on together.
What consequences will Mary face?
La négociation est finie avec les Américains sur l'entente sur les tiers pays sûrs, chemin Roxham notamment, et que là, c'est la ratification maintenant aux États-Unis. Combien de temps vous espérez que ça prenne? Espérez-vous que ça bouge vite? Est-ce que vous avez une estimation de combien de temps ça pourrait?
La réalité, je ne suis pas tout à fait aussi optimiste que M. Mendicino. On a du travail à faire. On a fait du progrès avec les Américains, mais on demeure focusé sur la modernisation de l'entente, mais il reste encore beaucoup de travail à faire.
What consequences will Mary Ying face? Because there's no rules.
She has apologized and take responsibility.
So no election, sir?
Why is that it?
No punishment?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. Very happy to be here with so many colleagues here on the doorstep of the holiday season. Some of you may have heard the wonderful caroling, so congratulations to all of you on all of that. But here to talk about the very important subject of what our government is doing to combat gun violence and the important work that is being done under Bill C-21. We've always been clear that our goal is to take those guns which were designed for the battlefield, those AR-15 style guns, out of our communities because they have no place there, while at the same time respecting the important traditions around hunting and Indigenous peoples. And that is something that will continue to be the touchstone of the work that is being done at committee right now. Also point out that the government took an important historic step in 2020, in May of that year, by introducing a national assault-style rifle ban. And then earlier this year, last spring, we tabled Bill C-21, which, among other things, puts into place a national handgun freeze, offers some new tools to go after those hardened criminals who traffic guns. But we also said when we tabled that legislation that we would invite an amendment to ensure that we're taking all the steps that are necessary around the military-style guns by adding and integrating an evergreen provision, which is a model-agnostic provision that allows us to make sure that we are being as comprehensive as we can be around the issue of assault-style rifles, while at the same time protecting and showing respect towards hunters and Indigenous peoples. And I do want to take a moment to thank the members of the Standing Committee on Public Safety for their ongoing study of that particular amendment. I also want to acknowledge that we have heard loud and clear from hunters and Indigenous peoples concerns around the reach of that provision, which is why we are very much inviting and embracing of a responsible and civilized debate about how we make sure that we draw the line in the right place when it comes to that particular policy. I want to take a note to thank all the members of our team who are really making sure that the voices of their communities are being brought to the forefront when it comes to this. And myself and the members of our government are engaging with hunters, with industry leaders. I mean, juste la dernière semaine, j'étais avec mon collègue, le député à Châtel, à Pontiac, à Graceville, pour une excellente discussion avec des chasseurs. Il faut souligner que c'est un gouvernement qui vont toujours respecter les traditions des chasseurs, les traditions des Autochtones, parce que c'est une partie de leur identité, une partie de leur fabrique canadienne. We will always show respect towards hunters. We will always show respect towards Indigenous persons for whom this is a part of their identity, a tradition which they pass on from generation to generation. And so we will continue to take the time that is necessary to make whatever fine-tuning to the language of the amendment to make sure that we get it right. And I know that this is something that we are indeed all united behind. When it comes to reducing gun violence, this is an emotional debate. Whether you are the family member of a victim or a survivor, or on the other side of the continuum, if you are a hunter, a collector, a recreational responsible sports shooter, or indeed an Indigenous person, this is an emotionally charged subject, which is why we need to move forward with a debate that is based on facts and not fear. And I know that that we are going to get there, and we will make sure that we move forward with trust and with the solidarity of Canadians who are united behind this goal. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to my colleague, Minister Hutchings, to say a few words. Gudie.
Thank you, Marco. Happy holidays, friends. We don't get a chance to say that. As many of you heard me say often, I am a hunter. I was brought up in a hunting community and a way of life that we all respect. And responsible gun owners do not want to see firearms used in violence. Everybody agrees on that. But of course, the other part that we see in rural Canada especially is that people hunt a lot for food for sustenance. I know in my province in Newfoundland and Labrador, probably 80% of the licenses are sold that people, for residents, go and get their moose, their caribou, their black bear for their protein for the winter. The other thing we don't talk about enough, and many of you know I have a background in tourism, is that the outfitting sector is $1 billion industry in Canada. And I can say Minister Mendicino and I, we've met with the Canadian Federation of Outfitting Associations a few times now. They agree with us that they don't want to see guns used in violent crimes. They're eager to work with us on the language to make sure that the facts are getting out there. So in simple language, as you have a lever, a bolt, a brake action, a pump action, it's your grandfather's gun that you've had for years, 99.99% of the chance that is not going to be impacted on this. So we need to get the facts out. We need to calm the waters and have a good discussion, because we all want the same thing at the end of the day, less violent crimes committed with firearms.
Some questions?
So, what are you announcing right now?
Well, I think we're showing our resolve to make sure that we get this right, Steph, and we are acknowledging that there have been concerns expressed by hunters and Indigenous persons around the language of this amendment. And we want to make sure that we, in wanting to draw the line right around which guns we are targeting with our National Assault Rifle ban, which are the AR-15 style guns, those guns which were designed to exert the maximum amount of force lethally in the shortest period of time, and keep out those guns that Minister Hutchings referred to, which are legitimately and commonly used by hunters, as well as Indigenous persons for either for food security or for personal protection, or in rural areas for farming. And so it is important that I think that Canadians see that this is a government that represents all of those communities. I mean, just look at all of the MPs here who come from right across the country, urban, suburban, and rural, and making sure that we move forward with a debate that is based on facts and not fear.
Are you saying, though, that they're wrong and you're right, that they just have the wrong idea here and everything you guys are doing won't ban a single weapon that they like to use for hunting?
I would say to you that on the basis of what we have heard, that there are definitely a few models that we need to look very carefully at, particularly in the language of the bill, where we are getting that feedback from hunters. That was some of the feedback that I got when I went to MP Chattel's writing, and some of the feedback that I've been getting from Cody and from Jaime and from Gudie as well. So we want to make sure that we absolutely have the language of the evergreen provision correct. And what that provision does is it takes a look at a number of objective characteristics and tries to capture those guns which have no place in our communities, while at the same time obviously being in full respect of those who hunt and in Indigenous communities. Oui, tout à fait. Il faut continuer de travailler en collaboration avec les comités qui sont en train d'étudier le projet de loi, inclure l'amendement. Et c'est un exercice qui est important parce qu'il faut mettre les lignes dans leur propre place. Donc, je suis toujours prêt pour, avec toute l'équipe, informer le débat de le comité avec des experts, avec des autres témoignages qui est basé sur les preuves, sur les faits, pas la paire. Et oui, il y a une possibilité pour faire une affinée sur la langue de l'amendement, donc que ce soit aligné avec le bout de le gouvernement. Sorry, Mr. Hutchings wanted to chime in.
Any of you here firearms owners? Do any of you here have an FAC, a firearm acquisition certificate? So here's a fact you need to know. There are still 19,000 firearms available for hunters and sport shooters and Indigenous hunters. So there's lots of firearms still available in Canada legally. If you want to shoot ducks, moose, deer, partridge, ptarmigan, there are plenty of legal firearms available for hunters. And I encourage you all. It's a wonderful sport, so take it up and you'll learn something about it.
Monsieur Mendicino, est-ce que vous parlez de la définition ou de la liste des armes à feu? Parce que vous dites qu'il faut faire du fine-tuning, donc revoir la définition?
Donc ça, c'est exactement les questions que le comité étudie maintenant. Où est la solution concrète? Donc, est-ce qu'il y a des révisions sous les listes qui identifient des modèles qui a aucune place, des modèles des armes d'assaut qui a aucune place dans nos communautés? Ou est-ce qu'il y a quelques modèles qui sont utilisés par le chasseur pour leurs propres objectifs? Donc, ça, c'est exactement que le comité a étudié maintenant.
Should we get rid of the list and just work on the definition?
Et sur la langue de la définition, c'est informé de l'avis et le conseil des experts, et on va continuer d'appuyer le bon travail de le comité. Il y a des représentants de le comité, Paul était là avec lui, et les députés de tous les partis pour arriver à leur propre place. Oui.
Why put the list of prohibited firearms into the legislation itself instead of keep them as regulations as they've been for so many years?
That's a really important question, and we've been clear all along that when we took the decision to ban assault-style rifles that have no place in our communities, that we would be inviting of an amendment to make sure that it was embedded in the law so that it would be more difficult for a future government to simply retract that law. And this is precisely why I think the vast majority of Canadians support the policy orientation of this government. And the ultimate goal is to take those guns that were used in Portapic-and-Truro, at Polytechnique, and elsewhere that have taken so many lives. And it's important that we get it right. While the committee is doing this work, we are going to continue to engage with Indigenous persons, with hunters, with other experts in this area, with industry leaders. I mean, we've been talking with some of the vendors to make sure that we understand the models that are on the list right now are indeed properly placed there. And if they're not, then we will obviously make some fine-tuning there as well.
How is two meetings enough then? If you're talking about we need to deal with the facts and remove the misinformation and confusion, how is 2 meetings enough to accomplish that?
Well, first, with regards to decisions around how many meetings the committee will undertake to study the amendment further, that is completely within their domain. But what I would say to you, and I think what our team would echo, is that we invite more discussion and more debate about this, that it has to be carried out in a way that is responsible, that is obviously kept in a way that is faithful to the facts as opposed to some of the fear and some of the disinformation out there, which has not helped to get us in the right place. So that's why, whether it's at committee, we'll support that process, whether it's through the engagements that we're continuing on with industry, with hunters, with farmers, with Indigenous persons, we will absolutely make sure that we take the time that is necessary to get this right. It is too important, and that we will get there.
Are you open to delaying the legislation?
I'm sorry?
Are you open to delaying the legislation, to taking a step back from this process in order to get it right, as you say?
Well, look, I think this is good legislation. I mean, quite apart from the amendment, there is robust support for the rest of C-21, which includes a national handgun freeze, which includes red flag and yellow flag protocols, which includes additional tools for law enforcement, like raising maximum sentences against hardened gun traffickers, like also additional surveillance powers to make sure that we can interdict the trafficking of illegal guns across our international borders. So my hope, and I think our aspiration, is to support the committee to make sure that we can work through the amendment and then get to the bigger question of passing this bill into law urgently. The last thing I'll just say is that quite apart from C-21, the work that this government is doing at the border, adding $450 million to support CBSA so that we can build on the record number of illegal gun seizures over the last 2 years, is important. The work that this government is doing when it comes to preventing and stopping gun crime from occurring in the first instance through the Building Safer Communities Fund are part of a comprehensive plan that we have to eradicate gun violence once and for all. And I think what we all collectively are hearing, regardless of where you live, a big city, small city, rural, Indigenous community, is that they support those goals. They want us to get there, and the way to get there is to make sure that we have a reasonable and principled debate, and we will.
Correct a legislative definition to assault-style weapons. It's been talked about for a long time. It seems like it would help a lot in this debate, but we still don't have this yet. We're moving forward with it, despite not having that definition yet.
Well, this is precisely why we put forward the proposal to have an evergreen definition, and it is important that that as a matter of policy, that when we create that definition, that we get it right, and that's precisely what the committee is studying right now.
Est-ce que vous avez identifié une période à laquelle vous seriez prêt à étendre, étirer le processus de consultation? Pour vous, qu'est-ce qui est raisonnable? 2 mois, 3 mois, 6 mois?
Mais écoute, on va utiliser tout le temps qu'on a besoin. Pour moi, pour l'équipe, la plus importante chose est d'avancer un débat qui est basé sur les faits et pas la peur. Il y a des désinformations qui n'est pas utile pour personne, et donc en capacité, en tant que le ministre de la Sécurité publique, je vais appuyer tous les efforts de le comité, tous les efforts de mes collègues qui sont là pour représenter les voix chez eux, pour avancer le débat et pour faire qu'il faut. Et ça, c'est la plus importante chose. C'est tellement important.
Pourquoi pas un nouveau projet de loi avec ces amendements-là?
Je ne pense pas que c'est nécessaire parce que, comme j'avais déjà mentionné, la grande majorité de le projet de loi C-21, il a l'appui de la grande majorité de la Canadienne. C'est l'amendement. C'est la modification qui est proposée sur le Evergreen Provision. Donc,
What would you say to a hunter who can't afford to buy a new gun, who has a gun that's going to be caught up on the list?
do you want to take that one on guns?
Prohibited firearms,
The
who
market?
can't afford to buy a new one.
We've reached out. I've had discussions, and so has Minister Mendicino. There are many gun manufacturers out there, and we all know in the world of economies, if there's a need, I'm sure you'll see some gun manufacturers step up with another firearm that is available at a cheaper price. So all those discussions are ongoing, and if there's a need, I'm sure you will see some gun manufacturers step up.
Minister,
Okay, thank you very much. Merci.
Your guns caught up in this?
No, none.
Which guns do you own, and why do you think that those are okay versus what the government is trying?
Because I have a shotgun and rifle that I use and 22 gauge that I use for ptarmigan, moose, and black bear. They're traditional guns that I've had, some from my father all my life, and I know many hunters that have the exact. It's like I said to you before, if you have a break action, pump, lever, bolt, those guns aren't on the list, and that's what 99% of hunters actually use. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Go ahead.
We're happy with the process? No, and that's it's just
Appreciate that. All right, everyone ready? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alistair MacGregor. I serve as the NDP's public safety critic. I just want to make a few short comments on C-21, and then I'll open it up to questions. So I want to make it very clear that New Democrats have always supported legislative measures to keep our communities safe. And with the original C-21, when it was focused on a national handgun freeze, I thought we were well on our way towards a path of getting that done. The mess that we're in right now with C-21 being stuck at the Public Safety Committee is a mess that is entirely of the Liberals' making. And while it's one thing to acknowledge the concerns that are out there, the very real concerns that Indigenous communities have, that hunters have, and that farmers have, it's one thing to do, and you've got to follow that up with action. And so what I really want to make clear today is that the mess that we're in, the delay that C-21 is experiencing, is a mess that is entirely of the Liberals' making. And I maintain, as the public safety critic, that it is a mess that they have to take responsibility for and find a way to fix. And with that, I'd be pleased to take some questions.
I assume you were listening to the minister's comments, and I'm curious if you heard anything in that gave you a sense of a concrete plan to address the concerns of hunters and Indigenous people, Indigenous hunters across the country.
At the committee yesterday, we were having a meeting to discuss how many additional meetings we want to have, because it's quite obvious that this 11th hour amendment that was dropped on our lap, it was done so without any kind of consultation, and I think that's why you're seeing the kind of outrage that you are from Canadians. I don't yet know if there is a plan from the Liberals. I have yet to see it. I think they have just been trying to say that, well, we need more consultation through the committee process. We're trying to figure out how many more meetings that is, but I maintain that the committee should not be doing this work. We will try our best to do this work, but it should have been work that the government did from the get-go. They completely dropped the ball on this. They did not do their homework, and as a result, you're seeing this kind of outrage, and you're seeing the committee trying to pick up the pieces from the government's own mess.
What do you think is a good idea?
Could survive. Do you see any way that C-21 can survive?
That's entirely up to the Liberals. Again, I cannot answer that question because we have not done the consultation. So our committee is going to try to do its best. We're going to resume our meeting, which was suspended yesterday, in January. And that's where committee members are going to try and chart a path forward over the number of meetings that we want to have, who needs to be consulted. And we'll take our direction from the hunters, from the farmers, and the Indigenous communities that are expressing outrage right now, and they will guide our committee in what that fix may or may not look like. But again, I maintain this very strongly. The Liberals created this mess. They have to take responsibility, own it, and fix it.
Do you think it's a good idea for the parliamentary committee to travel up north to do the consultation? Or is it just a tactic to delay the work even longer?
I would not say it's a tactic to delay. We're in this place right now because the Liberals created it. If they had done their homework, if they had not dropped this 11th hour amendment on our lap, we would not be having this meeting stuck in the mud as it is. I think that if you look at the fact that in the last Parliament, especially with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, we passed an Act of Parliament, and that requires that all federal laws are in harmony with the Declaration. Consultation with Indigenous peoples, maintaining that nation-to-nation relationship, is not something you do after the fact. You don't announce an amendment and then do consultation. So I will make sure that with Indigenous peoples in particular, where firearms are not something that they do just for fun. It's a way of life. It's a tool that they use to provide for their families and maintain food security. I want to be satisfied that the full range of consultation has been done with all Indigenous peoples. That includes members of the Assembly of First Nations, the Métis National Council, and of course up north with the Inuit.
It seems as though what Marco Mendicino just said is that they're trying to work on two tracks here. He is simultaneously saying that he intends and they intend to go out and listen to hunters and communities and premiers, but also the committee needs to do the work of the amendments. Can they do it, have it both ways like that? Should they not be out fixing this and then tell you what to do? I don't understand what the government just said at all, and I'm wondering what you make of it.
This is my frustration. So let me walk back a bit, because when this bill was first introduced on May the 30th, it was then that the minister made a passing reference to an amendment they were going to bring to their own bill. So on the day the bill was introduced in Parliament, they were already thinking of an amendment to it, which speaks that the bill may have been introduced before it was actually ready. I remember asking departmental officials in our very first meeting about this amendment. They could not provide any information. Through 8 meetings with witnesses, we never had the chance to tailor our committee strategy, establish that consultation, and receive feedback. So for the government to now put it on the committee's lap that we're now supposed to do the work for a mistake and a mess that they created is completely backwards. The government should have done this from the get-go, should have included it with the original bill, and should have made an argument at second reading as to why this measure was necessary.
And how many meetings would you like to see at this stage of the game?
Sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt this. Maybe I'll just take time to answer. Can you repeat the question?
How many meetings would you like to see at this stage of the game?
So yesterday there was some discussion on that. The Liberals wanted 2, far too few. The Conservatives wanted 20. I think we were arriving at a number of around at least 8. That's the same number that was given to Bill C-71 and Bill C-21. Again, we haven't reached a decision yet, but I think there's some consensus emerging around the number 8.
Should this definition even be independent, or should it be its own thing?
Again, this is such a substantial increase, an expansion of the original scope of the bill. We never had a chance to do the proper parliamentary process in, asking witnesses about it, asking our constituents about it, asking affected communities about it. So yes, it's been an abusive process, the way the amendment was brought in. And again, the Liberals are the ones who have to stand here. They brought it in, they created this mess, they are the ones that have to find a way to fix it. I'm not going to do that work for them. They have to take responsibility for it.
What do you make of the comment that hunters can just go out and buy a new gun?
I think that's a little insulting to people. A lot of people who hunt, they don't have great economic means. So, sorry, I'm just going to have to interrupt. Thank you.
J'aimerais avoir votre réaction. On va commencer par les propos de M. Mendicino.
Ben là, c'est parce que je viens de lire votre tweet, là.
C'est ça. Commençons par les propos de M. Mendicino ce matin qui dit que les négociations seraient finies. Il ne reste plus que la ratification d'un accord transformé avec les Américains. Êtes-vous encouragé? C'est une question de moi, c'est plus une question de...
Ben là, premièrement, on n'avait pas de détails. Deuxièmement, en 2019, c'était dans leur plateforme électorale, puis ils nous disaient que c'était sur le point d'aboutir. Je vous rappellerai qu'on s'en va en 2023 dans quelques semaines, et il n'y a toujours rien de signé. Et donc, quand un ministre de la Sécurité publique ne nous donne pas de détails, mais nous dit que ça avance bien, permettez-moi d'en douter, malheureusement, ils ont un bilan par rapport à ça, puis je vais être obligé de le voir un peu comme Thomas, là. Je vais le croire quand je vais le voir. Donc, c'est la première des choses, mais là, j'ai pris connaissance des propos du premier ministre suite à ça.
Oui, il dit, je suis pas aussi optimiste, moi. Qu'est-ce que ça vous dit sur la communication entre lui et son ministre?
Ben,
la progression, en réalité, de ces choses?
Ce que ça me dit, c'est qu'il y a de l'amateurisme dans le dossier. C'est clair, net et précis, là. Quand le premier ministre puis son ministre de la Sécurité publique ne s'entendent pas sur comment va une entente avec les Américains, ça fait amateur rare, là. Ça ne fait pas pays du G7. Là. Ça, c'est sûr, c'est clair, net et précis. Le problème, c'est que ça a des conséquences. Là. Pendant qu'ils ne s'entendent même pas au sein même du cabinet du premier ministre avec son ministre de la Sécurité publique, bien, il y a des gens qui souffrent. Il y a des organismes communautaires à Montréal qui nous disent qu'ils n'arrivent pas à aider les gens qui arrivent par Roxham. Ils n'ont plus les ressources, ils n'ont plus les moyens, ils ne peuvent pas aider ces gens-là puis avec des solutions de base, là, comme des couches pour les bébés, du lait pour les bébés, du linge pour l'hiver, parce qu'il y a du monde qui ne sont pas équipés pour l'hiver, qui arrivent par Roxham. Et pendant ce temps-là, donc, il y a des gens qui souffrent. C'est pas humain, la façon qu'on accueille ces gens-là. Depuis le début qu'on le dit au Bloc québécois, il faut suspendre l'entente. Si on veut améliorer les négociations avec les Américains, je vous garantis qu'en suspendant l'entente, là, le deal il serait signé pas mal plus vite, puis ça fait longtemps qu'on le dit aussi.
Est-ce que l'idée, puis c'est ce qui semble être discuté, que l'entente s'applique sur toute la frontière canadienne, et peut-être à certains points d'entrée non officiels comme Roxham, pour pouvoir retourner les gens, est-ce que d'après vous, ça peut faire partie de la solution? Parce que c'est ça qui semble être discuté.
Nous, depuis le début, ce qu'on dit, c'est qu'il faut accueillir ces gens-là dignement, comme les ententes internationales qu'on avait signées au préalable, avant la mise en place de l'entente Tiers pays sûrs. Il y avait des ententes qui s'appliquaient, revenons à ça. Ces gens-là ont le droit de faire une demande d'asile. Il y a c'est-à-dire, il y a 117 postes frontaliers, non pas par Roxham, par les postes officiels, réguliers. Les 117 postes frontières entre le Canada et les États-Unis, là, c'est là qu'ils faisaient leur demande avant. Maintenant, ils passent par Roxham, donc ce que ça fait, c'est que tout le volume est concentré vers le Québec, puis le Québec, présentement, la capacité d'accueil, elle n'est plus là, et ça depuis longtemps, alors qu'on bat encore plus de records, jour après jour, d'arrivée de personnes par Roxham. Si on suspend l'entente, on prend ce volume-là de gens qui veulent arriver ici, premièrement, on les accueille dignement par des vrais postes frontières, puis le volume est dispersé tout le long de la frontière, ce qui veut dire que les provinces comme la Colombie-Britannique, l'Ontario, le Manitoba, la Saskatchewan, la Nouvelle-Écosse, par Halifax, ils vont faire leur part dans l'accueil de ces gens-là. Présentement, c'est tout le Québec seulement qui s'en occupe. Là. Ça n'a pas de bon sens. On veut bien aider les gens, mais on n'a pas la capacité d'accueil de tous ces gens-là. Il faut aussi les franciser. Puis pendant ce temps-là, en plus, ils n'obtiennent pas leur permis de travail, qui est la seule job d'Ottawa, de leur donner un permis de travail rapidement, bien, ils l'obtiennent en 14, 15, 16 mois. Alors, pendant ce temps-là, qu'est-ce qu'ils font? Ils ne peuvent pas travailler, ils sont sur l'aide sociale, les organismes communautaires s'en occupent. Ça ne fonctionne pas, puis quand on me dit que le premier ministre n'est pas d'accord avec son ministre de la Sécurité publique, la même journée, ça fait dur, c'est amateur. Puis nous autres, on dit que ça a des conséquences sur des vrais humains, des hommes, des femmes, puis des enfants qui ont besoin d'aide. Présentement, le ministre de la Sécurité publique, le premier ministre ne s'entendent pas. C'est amateur, puis ça fait dur.
M. Legault, ce matin, disait on aimerait ça que le gouvernement fédéral prenne en charge de 78 des gens qui arrivent par Roxham, parce que c'est la proportion du reste du Canada. Êtes-vous d'accord avec cette prémisse-là? Il faut que ce soit mieux redistribué, l'accueil de ces gens?
Tout à fait. Et la solution que le Bloc porte depuis le début, c'est exactement ce qu'on aurait comme résultat. C'est-à-dire que les gens se déplaceraient dans différentes provinces feraient leur demande à différents endroits. Et puis à ce moment-là, ça serait réparti naturellement ailleurs, partout au Canada. Donc, on arriverait sensiblement au même résultat. Le problème qu'on a, c'est qu'ils sont en train de pérenniser Roxham avec des installations, avec des contrats de 5, 6 ans, avec des millions de dollars. Pendant ce temps-là, nos organismes communautaires n'arrivent pas. Le système de santé a des difficultés. Il ne peut pas recevoir tous ces gens-là en prime. Je veux dire, c'est amateur depuis le début, et là, on a la confirmation puis la démonstration que ce gouvernement-là ne prend pas au sérieux du tout ce qui est en train de se passer au chemin Roxham.